roles. Those envoy roles include a special envoy for social cohesion. That envoy will be Peter Khalil, who's my guest this morning. Peter Khalil, congratulations and welcome back.
Good morning, Patricia. Thank you very much.
Look, we're going to talk about your new role in a moment, but there has been a big shift in the way that the front bench now looks. Do you think it's fair that Clare O'Neil was dumped out of the Home Affairs portfolio?
Well, Patricia, I wouldn't characterise it like that. Of course, I think Claire's done a really terrific job, and I can say this because I have been still technically working still as the chair of the Intelligence Committee, so I worked very closely with her. She did a lot of repair work on a portfolio that had been very politicised during the coalition years, that really needed some, rebuilding, if you like, and the work that she's done on strengthening democracy, the policies in that area, but also protecting critical infrastructure has been quite exemplary. And now she's moving into a portfolio which is significantly and critically important in housing and homelessness. It's an economic policy area, as she said, but it's also one that is so important for the future of Australians around housing affordability. And, we've invested $32 billion in housing supply for affordable social and public housing. And Clare has this huge responsibility to implement those policies and create more policies in that space.
Okay, you say create more policies in that space. Is this also an acknowledgement that the government has been undercooked when it comes to housing?
Well, I wouldn't say that either. I mean, I just said in just 2 short years, we've invested $32 billion in affordable housing, social housing and public housing, but also policies around build to rent, around an equity scheme, rent assistance for, increasing the Commonwealth rent assistance by the biggest margin, I think, in 30 years, and relief, part of the broader cost of relief policies that we've implemented as well. You can always improve, of course, but I think there's been a power of work done in this space because it is a critical issue that was frankly neglected for 10 years, and we're now working very, very fast to actually put together and implement the policies necessary to provide affordable housing for Australians.
You've been given the role of the government's special envoy for social cohesion. What does that job involve?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I think to talk about that concept, and there's something I've been working on for many decades, actually, and really cohesion is about the different parts of our society sticking together to form a united whole, the act of forming that united whole. It really is about the relationships that we have with each other within our city, how we work together, common goals we share, what common ground we have, how that society works effectively as a united whole. Now, it's not just about multiculturalism, Patricia. It's not just about religious background or ethnicity. It's much broader than that because we have so many different perspectives and experiences. Our political beliefs, the intergenerational differences, the socioeconomic difference, and that is really important that we find ways and policies and enhance policies to strengthen our ability to form that united whole as a society, especially when it's being threatened with fragmentation through many different challenges that we're facing.
Okay, so in terms of what an envoy for social cohesion does, is this essentially work that just comes out of the war in Gaza and what Labor says is a disunity in the community in relation to that?
No, it's not just about foreign policy issues, and this is what I was trying to explain. This policy area is really important because if you think about, for example, the cohesive parts of a society being the bricks and mortar of a building, it's how you put that together, how you build that society. And you need coherence as well. It's got to make sense. And this is the work that's done through various policies that cut across, I think, the orthodox silos in government. And I think the really important thing here is the Prime Minister is looking at this problem right across government. It's not just one part of government. It's not just one policy area. Where can we improve the policies around our institutions to make them stronger, to give people more confidence in those institutions as well and the way they go about their lives. But fundamentally, it's about the foundation of our society to give people the opportunities to have a better life as well. If you have a cohesive society, and that doesn't mean people don't disagree, but it's how we disagree. If you have the structures in place that allow people to maximise their potential, fulfil their potential, work effectively and have a better life. That's fundamentally what we all want. We want that kind of society. Now, Australia has been a relatively harmonious society for decades, but we do face challenges, and it's important to be able to work on those challenges and address them and enhance our democracy, the institutions that we have within our society, so they work for the people.
So there are also Islamophobia envoys, an envoy for Islamophobia, which hasn't yet been announced. Why is that being held up?
Well, you'd have to ask the relevant ministers and the Prime Minister, but I think that is going to be announced. I think the Prime Minister noted that was going to be announced soon, so hopefully we'll see announcement pretty soon. Those envoys that you mentioned are quite different. They are outside of the parliamentary process, obviously, but they're working obviously with those communities and across communities as well on those particular issues around those two issues of anti-Semitism and Islamophobia, which we've seen an increase in both over this period. And they're important roles, I think, in engaging with communities. Again, it's all about trying to bring people together.
And do you work with them? Is that what? Will you be working with those two envoys in your role? Is there a link between those concepts?
I suspect so. I think I'll be working across government, I think, and with all the different stakeholders and groups across society. I think that's important. Working with those envoys will be an important part of the role because, again, if we're looking at ways that we can develop policy and shape policy to enhance that stickiness of the different parts of society, to bring people together, and find that common ground, that'll be an important part of the work, that engagement as well.
Well, on this question of social cohesion and the way that we are conducting ourselves, there seems to be a strong reaction this morning to, I think there was an offshore wind protest that Barnaby Joyce, who's a frontbencher in the coalition side, was speaking at. He has used language that's been condemned. The bullet you have is that little piece of paper in that magazine called The Voting Box. He's obviously talking about voting, but he's used the word bullet, and we are in a particular point of history where we're quite concerned about political rhetoric. Is that concerning to you?
Oh, absolutely. I just saw the footage of this. I think it was on TV just before. I just caught a bit of it. It's quite shocking, actually, because, again, this goes to the point about the way that you use language, your obligation and your responsibility. And he's a democratically elected representative. Your obligation, responsibility to bring people together, to unite people, not to sow discord and division through this kind of violent rhetoric. And we've seen what's happened with other jurisdictions in the US and the polarization and what's gone on with the attempted assassination in the US. So it's highly irresponsible. And I would hope that Barnaby Joyce apologises. I would hope that Peter Dutton makes sure that he does that and calls this out. It's absolutely unacceptable. We are really, I think, we have a responsibility, Patricia, as a democratic elected representatives, to protect our society, to try and bring people together, to unite people. This stickiness of the cohesion that I was talking about earlier is bringing the parts of a society together. Even if we disagree, do it in a way that doesn't, it doesn't foster and doesn't embitter and doesn't create anger. We can agree peacefully, disagree peacefully, I should say. We don't have to use that kind of violent rhetoric. It's really unnecessary and It's unacceptable, and he should be called out.
We're out of time.